Hey everyone, in this episode, Joe and I chat with Laurie Sudbrink. She is a celebrated speaker, author, and leader with more than 20 years of human resources, leadership, marketing, and training experience. During our discussion, she shares her experiences at the various transition points in her life and discusses the importance of generosity, respect, integrity, and truth in leadership. Enjoy the show.
Life, learning, leadership, the Llama Lounge.
Yo, welcome back to the Llama Lounge, a dialogue on all things life, learning, and leadership. This is Joe Bogdan, and today I'm joined by my brother, Dub Scott Green. What's going on, bro?
Hey friend, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome, man. I walked outside today, and the weather is amazing right now in Northern California. Like there's
Nice.
a perfect breeze, the sun's hitting. I'm gonna go for a jog later on, and the Traeger's humming right now, smoking some meat.
Run. You're gonna go for a run.
Run, jog, run. Okay.
Yeah. I told you, anything over a mile is not a jog.
So, man,
Unless you're just going for a mile.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, fine.
You know-
I'm going for a run.
Thank you. You finally got it. All right. Yeah, I haven't been outside today yet, but I just looking out the window, it's gorgeous. But we did spend about 5 or 6 hours out on the lake yesterday. Took the wave runner out there and got a little sun. So today is sort of chill day.
Nice.
Staying away from the sun today.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's good. That's good too, right? Sweet. So, hey, Scott, I'm not sure how we keep getting this lucky, but today we have another amazing guest with us in the lounge, Laurie Sudbrink. How are you, Laurie?
Hey, I'm great, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, we are too. For our listeners, Laurie is a celebrated speaker, author, and leader with more than 20 years of corporate experience in human resources, leadership, management, sales, marketing, and training. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here. And it was Shay Sparks that actually, and told me about you guys, and we had the best conversation, Joe. So thank you.
Yeah. We were just talking about before we hit record on this one that we could have recorded that one. So, but yeah, that was absolutely a great discussion. Shout out to Shay Sparks for connecting us, and she's just an amazing human being, and luckily that she got to connect us, and I'm really excited to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So, we whenever we're on the lounge and we have a guest, we typically like to listen to hear a little bit about the guest story because like we can often glean so much wisdom from hearing other people's stories. So we'd love to for you to share a little bit about you and how you maybe how Laurie Sudbrink became the Laurie of today.
Yeah, we have, right? Seriously, though, I do like to back it up to my childhood because I am a middle child of 14. And, I jokingly call it the crazy bunch, not the Brady bunch, because we definitely had a dysfunctional family, and it wasn't all rosy. It wasn't, by far. In fact, I was stolen from my mom when I was really young by my dad and stuff. So quite,
Wow.
Some pretty tragic things that happened. But, I think that has really shaped who I am today because it has allowed me, to really do some self-reflection and to look at things, but in this world of corporate training, I'll jump right to, today and say, I'm constantly trying to help people to be more self-aware, make choices. It's so important the way that we react to a situation, not so much what happens, because we all know stuff happens, and just being living proof of that through a big majority of my life. I had quite a few challenges to overcome, and those things have what is that saying? That doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. I really believe in that, and I think that we all have our journey, and my journey has been my journey. It's like, that's all it is. I wouldn't change anything about it because I couldn't be here today with you guys. So it's, yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up, how in your teachings, you're teaching people holistically, right? You're teaching people that, you know, the decisions they make and how they perceive those challenges and adversities and how they respond to them is so important, because I think oftentimes we, you know, whether it's in the military realm, like I'm in, or in the civilian industry, we kind of miss out on those soft skill developments. We're more like we're more like focused on the you know the nuts and bolts, right? The technical piece of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that happens a lot.
And I think, you know, I think one of the reasons for that, and not the only reason, but one of the reasons, is just the sheer fact that technical things are easier to measure. It's something you can check off. It's something that you can say, yep, I did it. You can measure it. The leadership, the communications, the team stuff, the soft skills, so to speak. There's so many other variables that it's kind of tough to go, yeah, because of that training, you know, he ended up being this way or that way. And so I think, you know, that's part of it. But anybody that's been involved in it, as I know, Scott, you have, and I think Joe, you as well, you know, and our listeners know inherently that there is so much that comes out of that kind of training when we decide to engage and when we decide to do something with it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly like to, if I'm facilitating a course or doing a consultation with a client, I will let them know that that is probably just as important skill set to have, or a tool to have, leadership capabilities and communication capabilities, because they affect the person way more than their ability to actually turn a wrench or, you know, process a computer or whatever they do. And so I don't know about you, Laurie, but for me, I think I found my sweet spot where I'm in a position that's my job. I'm in an industry where people are finally coming to the realization that, oh, we need this type of training. For years, it's always been technical. We need upskilling people. And what I'm finding, especially in the position that I'm in, is people want more of that leadership training. They want more communication and team development.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm just so grateful and blessed that I did find my calling, and I love what I do. And I think it impacts people so profoundly that companies, organizations, as well as the government and military, you know, realize the benefits of it. And it not only improves the job, but it improves your entire life, which I think you guys agree. You can't come to the job and leave your stuff at the door. You just can't do it. We're human beings, and it's important that we're happy and whole and healthy in all aspects of our life, so that we can show up and influence those around us in an authentic and genuine way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And as a manager and as a supervisor or leader in any role, you are going to get so much more product. If you have to focus on the measurement of the productivity, right?
Yeah.
You'll get a lot more impact if you know how to communicate and take care of your people. It's sometimes hard to directly quantify, but there are ways to kind of measure the performance, right?
Yeah.
If you take care of your people, they're going to be more inspired to take care of the job. And so again, it's a lot more than just teaching them those technical skills. It's also about taking care of them holistically.
Yeah, one of my favorite definitions of leadership is so simple. It's a person that you want to follow, not a person that you have to follow. And that's exactly what you're saying, because the inefficiency of resistance, you know, if you're resisting someone because you don't like them or you're mad at them, or that, you know, that causes inefficiencies that, you know, it's hard to measure, but you can measure those things for sure. If you put the you know, agree on the right things to look at and measure those things. But yeah, you know, it's so much more efficient when you as a leader are doing the right things for the people that you influence and they want to follow you. The trust is there, you know, the respect is there. Yeah.
Right. I love that. The inefficiencies of resistance. Yeah, that's a great term. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. We'll definitely to put that one in the toolbox there. But I think it's definitely difficult to quantify, right? And I'm so happy that both the military and civilian industry has really embraced this leadership training, because I think what it was is, you know, I think we're just so focused on short-term quantification, right? Where this is
Yeah.
more of a long-term investment, right? That human capital investment. So I think that's kind of where it is. But I'm really, like I said, I'm very excited that we're kind of transitioning there. There was a tipping point somewhere, and I think it's some good stuff.
Yeah, some of my favorite classes that I've done have been in for HRSC for the
Hmm.
Navy and
Hmm.
in San Diego, um, and why I say that is because I would have civilians and as well as active military in the class, and I'm coming in for a 4-day on supervisory skills, and I got guys sitting like this, like,
Yeah,
what the
arms
hell?
crossed. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
what are you going to tell me? Kind of thing. And my favorite thing is just connecting with them in the beginning to help them
Right.
to see that this is for you. This
Mhm.
is all about you. I'm not
Yeah.
here to tell you anything,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
have a blast with those kind of classes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the military default, yeah, stance in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
in a
Oh,
class.
yeah.
Arms crossed, lean back. Like, what am I here for?
Yep.
And I got 2 points to make with that. So that's my natural. If you can, I know Laurie can
Yeah.
probably see. That's how I sit, and it's funny because I was in an emotional intelligence workshop uh, back when I was in the military, and I'm sitting there, and it was fascinating. The person providing the workshop facility was incredible, and I would sit there, arms folded, front row, just
Yeah.
because that's my default setting. And during one of the breaks, she comes up to me. She's like, "Hey, is everything okay? Are?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am. This is fantastic. I'm soaking this in. I love this stuff." She goes, "Okay, she's like, your nonverbals are throwing me off a little bit." And I said,
Yeah.
I apologize. But
Well,
I would have the same thing when I was a career advisor, right?
yeah.
I would run these professional development workshops. And on Monday, everyone sat there, arms folded. And then by Thursday, we're saying, why didn't I have this earlier in my career? This
Yeah.
is great stuff. So it's always good to see that light bulb take place throughout the week, that aha moment start happening, and people really start valuing and appreciating what you're doing.
It really is, and I have to really shout out to the facilitator in your class because, so often we will just make an assumption based on that nonverbal.
Mhm.
And she did the appropriate thing,
Exactly.
she asked you just to clarify because 93% of a message is received from our nonverbals, right? So it's like, so
Yeah.
you're wondering, what's going on,
Yeah.
and it's good to check in with people, but it's so important not to make an assumption based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is. So Laurie, before we get too far into some more of the leadership discussions and stuff, I wanted to kind of talk about. I was hoping that you might be able to share because you had a huge transition in your career, right? You went from corporate leadership, corporate world, and then you kind of went solo, right? And
Yeah.
I was thinking if you could share a little bit about maybe your experience in the corporate world and what you were doing, and then maybe how that transition kind of occurred. We'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there's kind of two big transitions there. The first one was, I worked for a manufacturing company in upstate New York for almost 15 years. And the first 2 years I was on the factory floor and I was working second shift and I was, going to school part-time, and I was a single mom, and life was tough. As soon as I got the opportunity to move into the office, I did, as I was still taking classes and stuff. And the last probably 5 or 6 years there, I was focused on the leadership and soft skills type training. It started with technical training, and then I, slowly convinced them, and I was the one and only person in the training department. It was like shoestring budget, trying to do everything you can.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
I've
exactly
been
what.
there. I've been there. Yeah.
And it's amazing how creative you get with that, right? It's you really do find awesome resources. And so, I had a really good opportunity there. I'm not going to say everything was great because even, especially in the latter part of working for that company, they literally took manufacturing south. They went south. They were filing Chapter 11, and all kinds of negative things were going on. And I remember creating a lunch and learn with a bunch of folks that just didn't want to get sucked down into that negativity. I mean, you start to feel like you don't have any purpose when stuff like this is happening, when there's a big restructuring. And so we started like a lunch and learn called Me Inc., and just started to learn and develop and do the best we could on our own. That was nothing to do with any of the programs because we didn't have budgets for programs. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. The thing that I was blessed with when I left, because I saw the writing on the wall. I knew it was, going down. And I said, I'd really like to do something on my own. Now, most people that leave a corporation and start consulting, they get to consult for their past corporation. Well, I wasn't going to have that opportunity, but I was in, in good relationships with the C-suite, the people that I worked with. And I had created most of the programs myself because of the shoestring budget. But, technically they owned them.
Sure.
But they told me you can have them because we're not going to do anything with these. What are we going to do with these? So I was so blessed to be able to walk out of there. I was a certified DISC instructor, and I had created a lot of courses. So I've been using DISC for over 20 years. And then I did go out on my own. I had decided that before I did that, I don't even know if decided is the right word. I was a little afraid to do it, to be quite, open and transparent. And the first opportunity that was thrown at me was to manage a training center on the kind of technical training side. It was CompUSA, computer training, and it was up in Syracuse, New York. And I jumped on it. I said, I didn't feel like I was quite ready to go out on my own, but I also had never sold training. I had sold physical products, but I had never sold a service. 3 months into it, I'd had enough. And we were doing phenomenal. We were in a great market because it was software training, so you show up and are nice to people and you were making the sale. It was really easy.
Right.
But I understood the concept, and CompUSA was doing a huge restructuring. And I remember my boss coming to me and saying, well, I know that you won't want to take advantage of this, but I have to legally tell you that you can be laid off and get all these benefits and stuff. And I said, well, actually I do,
Nice.
So it was like, hey, it was a shock to them and stuff, but it was like, I was ready. And for the first time in my life, I took 2 months off. I drove up along the coast, the East Coast, and my mom's from Newfoundland. And I took my daughter, who was 12, 13 at the time, and we just took a couple months off before I started my business. And then I started all, on my own. And it was, people asked me, and they continue to ask me like, wow, how'd you do that? Were you scared? All this kind of stuff. And I said, honestly, I can't take credit for it because I was just compelled to do it. It was like,
wow.
I just worked really hard and wanted to do it so badly that it didn't feel like a lot of effort. You know what I mean? I know I worked hard. In fact, I worked too hard. I definitely, working as hard as I did probably ruined some close relationships, things like that, because I was just 100% entirely absorbed into it. But the thing that I noticed going solo was I missed collaborating with people. I missed that so much. So I, about a year into it, started to build a team. Because I, as much as it was nice to get away from all the corporate bureaucracy and stuff, it was, I missed that piece of it. And I ended up building a team of 6 full-time. There were 5 full-time instructors and 1 office manager that helped out with things, and she was great. And we had a great team, and a couple things happened, and this was the second big transition. We were really doing fantastic, and 2 things happened right at once. And I don't know if it was the universe just saying, time to make a huge change, but we had the big recession of 2008. And in 2010, I lost my youngest brother to suicide. And it was just, I was reeling, even though I had done so much work with, spiritual work. I worked under Don Miguel Ruiz. I went on retreats with him and stuff. The 4 Agreements. I don't know if you've heard of that, but one of my favorite books. And, that just knocked me, it just completely, all the tools that I had, I'm sure helped me. But I was, in hindsight, when I look back, I had panic attacks. I had all kinds of things. I think I was experiencing PSTD or something. I don't know. I never got any real help. I probably should have, to get through it faster. I probably should have. But I did have great tools like meditation and yoga and things like that. And so right when I'm feeling like, okay, things are starting to get back together. This is 2012. My dad dies of cancer. And that's when 2011, 2012, when he was diagnosed in 2011 was when I got into the health, looking at health, and I just got really interested in that, but that's a whole nother story. And then November 2012, I had a second brother commit suicide. And it was
Goodness.
just, you think that you go through one thing and you think, okay, I've got this, I know what I did last time. I'm just going to, follow that and do that. And nope, you're not prepared at all. You're not. And so those things really not only knocked me for a loop, but they kind of made me really look inside and really question, what do you want out of life? And I was working so hard to build this business, and I wasn't balanced in my life, and I, as much as I can say I loved what I did, I wasn't really balancing things out. And so it, in hindsight, I can say it allowed me that opportunity to make this shift in my life. And now I have no brick and mortar. I have no, I don't have all that overhead and stuff. I have the freedom to just work from home. Back in about I think it was about 2008, we took all of our stuff and went online,
Right.
So it was on the cloud, and so yeah, it's been huge transitions, let alone going through things, challenges with the workplace. But I feel so much more free now, and I feel like I can do the work that I love to do, where before I was getting away from working directly with clients too much. I was working on the business so much.
Yeah.
And it's the transitions are never easy when you're in them. That's
Right.
that's the hard part. It's like now when something's coming, I can kind of feel that it's coming, and I'm kind of like, okay, just let go, just accept it. Don't resist it so much, because what is that saying? What you resist persists, right?
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
I don't know who said that, but I love that, because it's like, okay, just surrender, to it,
Right.
and kind of go with it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a challenge to try to control things that you really have no control over. It's
Yeah.
so much energy, and it can be exhaustive and defeating when you're trying to control things that are beyond your control. And sometimes, like you said, you just have to go, all right, this is a reality. Let me face it. And I think for a lot of people, what's important, and I know for me, if I'm facing a challenge, while I'm going through it, I'm asking myself, what am I learning from this? And I don't know about you, Joe. I know we talked about that, when we talk about mindfulness and stuff, is if I'm going through a challenge, like what can I learn from this? So that
Right.
way, if somebody else I know is going through something, I can at least try to help them through it as well.
Yeah, I think there's so much to unpack with what Laurie just shared with us. And one of the things that, like, to your point, Scott, I think, what vantage point are you gonna, look at this challenge or obstacle from, right? Whether or not it's a growing opportunity, but it's so difficult. Like Laurie, you went through a lot of stuff there in that moment, and throughout that transition, that was just, it was, man,
not a lot, and not. I mean, it was what 4 or 5 years.
right. Yeah. I was like back to back to back. Right.
Yeah.
So I think, and to your point, Laurie, is like you're saying, you have all the skills to know how to get through something, but you're still struggling to get through it. And I think sometimes that could be demoralizing for us. So you're like, wait, why am I going through this when I know, right?
I'm a pro at this. I should be able to handle this flawlessly.
Right. Yeah. You start questioning things. And I think that's just, we have to remember that we're all human beings, and we have to experience it still regardless. So, but I've been in that same situation. So when you were sharing that story, I was thinking, yeah, I've been there where I thought, like, wait, maybe these skills that I have might have helped me through it, but I'm not 100% sure. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most, the most humbling things that we can be aware of as human beings, is that, it is about being human, and there's always going to be challenges. And as long as we can, be open to accepting those, and again, not resisting those, but realizing that you can't control. I love that, Scott, right?
Yeah.
You can't control that. You can't control what what's happening all the time in life, but you can absolutely control sometimes how you react to it, and then other times it's just being okay with okay, this happened. And I
Mhm.
think I said that acronym wrong, PSTD,
PTSD. Yeah,
PTSD.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's so funny. I used to get picked on all the time when
Yeah.
I worked for the Navy with the training classes because I am acronym
Oh,
Oh,
all
challenged.
the
sure.
acronyms.
Yeah.
Oh
I
man,
always say
yeah,
them wrong.
yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah.
That's awesome. But so you know what? So we're just to because it was like a perfect spot right there. You talk about acronym challenge. I think because you wrote a book and it
Mhm.
really ties into what we were kind of talking about and transitioning to more of a leadership focus. So grit. Right, you wrote a
Yeah.
book. Great. Can you explain that a little bit? Speaking like acronym challenge, but you had a
Yeah.
great acronym when it comes to grit.
Yeah, as long as the grit spells a word, I'm good.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so yeah. I'll tell you a little story about grit because grit was really important to me in my life, going through a lot of challenges from the time I was 3 and taken from my mom, all the way up through. I could, name lots of challenges. And I always prided myself with having grit, not giving up, that tenacity, that toughness kind of thing. But what was happening was that grit, when I became a young adult, especially, was getting in the way. There was collateral damage. It was ruining relationships. Like I said earlier, it was it was really actually ruining my own health and wellness at times because I would push so hard towards something that I would forget about other important areas of my life. And what I noticed in my work with other people in organizations, especially the higher up in leadership I went, is that, yeah, they had grit, but
Yeah.
they didn't have, the softer characteristics with grit, the generosity, respect, integrity, and truth. And not that they didn't have any one of those or some of those. It's the unique combination of those and how it acts as a roadmap to
Mhm.
help you really have grit without collateral damage. And so grit, generosity, respect, integrity, and truth, that acronym is a bit of a roadmap. And to get authentic generosity, we really need to start with truth.
Yeah.
And so we start with truth and work back to generosity. And that's how we create grit that doesn't have that collateral damage, that really can be more holistic, for lack of a better word, but to really help us be successful and help us give to other people as well.
Wow.
I think that's, it's incredible too, because when I was first reading about grit and then I read what each letter stood for, I was like, there's a little bit of a dichotomy there because
Yeah.
like you said, when I think grit, I think fortitude, let's push through this.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, generosity? What is she talking? But it makes so much sense because there really needs to be that harmony there, or you're either going to bulldoze over people or you're going to get run over yourself. Right. So you kind of
Yeah.
have to have that balance there of, ownership of yourself, and then that flexibility to allow other people to influence you as well. So yeah,
That's
I like that
exactly.
grit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it too. And I love the dichotomous, relationship of it, because it's like, we need that toughness, that tough characters with the soft characteristics of generosity, respect, integrity, and truth. We need compassion, but we need toughness. And I fondly, and I know everybody doesn't like the term, but I like the term tough love. It's like,
Yeah.
I am tough on my child because I love her so much, and I wanted her to grow up with personal responsibility and accountability and stuff. And so the tough lessons along the way were important to get there. And I think, in any relationship that we have, is important to have that kind of grit, because it is more about love and giving,
Sure.
and not at the expense of yourself or somebody else.
Well, and if you're a parent or a leader, when you stop showing that type of tough love to a child or a subordinate, you're really just showing them that there's really not love there at all. Like if
Yeah.
you're willing to allow them to continue on a
Mhm.
path of mistakes or self-defeating or poor performance, you're not really showing them love anyway. So the tough love, I mean, it feels tough to them in the moment,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, my dad's holding me to this standard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's because I don't want you to be, a deadbeat at the age of 18, right? I want you to you know, to
And I have to admit, it felt tough to me as a parent in the moment. You know, it really
Right.
did. Like because I'm such an empathizer, so I could empathize with how she felt when she was grounded, and I could
Right.
empathize, that kind of stuff. And it was like, but I
Yeah.
knew I needed to do that.
yeah,
Right. Right. I think, yeah, as leaders or as parents, we just got to understand that instilling discipline is part of serving as well.
sure.
Right. Right. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important. I think it's too often we get to the point where we think, one can't be done without the other. We're like, oh, I can't love them and also discipline. I was like, no, that's absolutely not true. That's absolutely not true. It's like, I've had to tell somebody like, man, I think that you have the greatest character and I love you to death, but I think you're not competent enough right now. And we need to work on that. Right. And,
Right.
and I think those are the tough conversations we need to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those tough conversations that's our opportunity to help somebody else with an awareness, and if we do that in the right way, and I have like communicate with grit, if you do that in a way that you're sharing with somebody truth and integrity and respect and generosity, then the intent shines through and they're more open to that. Then, you can imagine if you get so mad and so fed up and you don't know how to have the conversation and then you yell and scream at somebody
Right.
or ignore them and give up on them, the message that it's sending is that, yeah, I don't care about you, or you're not worth it, or, whatever
Right.
the message. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you came up with this acronym and kind of like honed your leadership perspectives on it to come up with grit, was there an epiphany moment, or was it more like just over time you kind of
Yeah.
developed it or honed it?
Yeah, you'll probably laugh at the way I came up with grit, because it was something that we had been doing, but we didn't have a label or an acronym or a word for it. And my team and I were in one of those rooms that they had the whiteboard painted on the walls, and we were doing a brainstorming, and all these words were up there. And for me, grit, generosity, respect, integrity, and truth stood out all of a sudden, and the way it kind of came together.
Wow.
But the funny thing was, when I was saying grit, I was like, yeah, grit. Well, my team knew that I love old Westerns. Like,
Yeah.
I just absolutely love like John Wayne and Clint Eastwood and all those old time Westerns. Like, and they were laughing, just thinking I was talking about grit. And I was like, no,
True
it's like,
grit.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, so that was how we came up with the acronym. And I said, yeah, just think about it. It starts with truth, because truth, not so much are you telling your truth, that's more the integrity piece, but do you know your truth?
Yeah.
Look inside and accept who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, the strengths, the limitations, all that kind of stuff. It's like I can objectively look at myself, accept myself, decide if I want to make a change or not. That's truth. What am I passionate about? What are my values, my morals? All that kind of stuff is truth, and so important for us to be able to look inside like that. And integrity comes next when you look at it as a roadmap. And integrity, as we know, is the telling of truth, but it's also aligning to your truth, right? It's like if I say health and fitness is really important to me, yet I come home and I'm just like eating Snickers bars and doing whatever,
Right.
then I'm not in integrity with that, right? So that's my opportunity. The grit model is not only a roadmap, but it's also an opportunity for awareness for me.
Right. And
I can
accountability.
question-
Yeah.
Yeah, and accountability. So I can question myself at that moment. I can say, is it really that important to me? Because if it is, I better get disciplined and do something differently. Or I can say, well, maybe it's not really that important to me. I get to make that choice. It's that self-awareness.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and then you transition to, so then respect was up there too.
Yeah. So after, your integrity, I just want to mention this because sometimes people think integrity and aligning to your truth means that you never make a mistake. And it's not about that at all. Yeah. It's not about that, that unattainable definition of perfection. It's about doing our best to align to that and cleaning up the mess when we make a mistake, right? Saying I'm sorry, or whatever that takes to clean up that mess when we didn't align to that. When we are in integrity with our truth, that's when, and this isn't so much in the model, but trust comes out of that. That's when people can trust us, and going to the next level of respect, it starts with that self-respect. So I know myself, my truth. I align to that with my actions. I'm showing self-respect for myself first. And then I'm able to really be able to authentically respect other people.
Sure.
I respect that. I don't know your truth. I don't know
Yeah.
what you've been through before you showed up to work today. I don't know what that crossing and folding of your arms really means, right?
Right.
I can respect that I don't have all the answers, and I can respect that everybody's on their own journey. And
Wow, that is powerful.
And the fact that you're willing to acknowledge that means so much to people. Because I know back in my military experience, like early on, that was the goal, was perfection, right? We wanted to be perfect in every way. We wanted to have people look at us like, oh wow, that guy, there's unstoppable, right?
Yeah, infallible. Yeah.
Infallible. But then you know, as you move up in the ranks, you start realizing, how are they that infallible? Like it's just not truthful
It's
at
a
all, right?
facade. Yeah, it's a facade.
It's such a facade. And so I think I know Joe and I have talked about this on different episodes and with other guests and just personal conversations, that we're self-proclaimed knuckleheads. Like we will be the first to admit that we don't know everything. And I think that's what makes you more genuine. And people are attracted to that, right? They are more willing to share their story because they know they're talking to a human being rather than some, Superman or something like that.
Yeah, I'm a proud knucklehead. Absolutely.
Yeah. We're gonna have to get T-shirts. Proud
Right.
knuckleheads, right?
Yeah, Laurie, I think that I loved your model because to me, and Scott and I talk about stuff like this all the time. It's like you gotta practice self-mastery before you start taking action, right? I mean, you gotta, and your model really represents both of those. And I think that the integrity piece really was singing to me because I've heard so many people. I was like, hey, what do you value? I would, it would be in a class or something, or I might just ask them, it's like, what do you value? And it's like, oh, I value my family. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, are all your actions representative that you value your family?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I was like, well, what are you doing? And then they kind of walk through, a model of it. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying you don't value your family. Maybe you're not consistent with your values right now, your actions, but maybe, I mean, I know it sounds terrible, but maybe you don't value your family as much as you think you do. And maybe you just do because social norms tell you should, right? And that's a tough discussion you have to have with yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
It really is, but it allows us to be more self-reflective. And, quite frankly, I wasn't taught to do that growing up. I wasn't, in fact, in my household, it was more like you needed to be do. And if you're self-reflecting, you're being selfish or you're, those messages.
Well, how many siblings did you say?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, a lot. There was no time for anything else.
Exactly.
One person steps out of line and stops to pause, and everything is out of whack.
Wow.
I understand that more now because my daughter has 4 boys, and I laugh.
Oh,
and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, but we didn't get to generosity, and that was the outcome of all of this. And I think generosity so often comes with strings, right? So often we might feel resentful when we're generous, or we might feel like we have to do this, we have to give, and there's nothing, in my opinion, better than authentic generosity, because that's love. That's that's gratitude. And you're doing it because you want to do it. So you're in the moment listening to one of your direct reports because you want to, because you know it's the right thing to do, not because you got to check that off your list, or it's something that that you better do just to make them feel better. No, you really want to do that, and it comes from a place of authenticity. Sure. And so when we have our grit together, so to speak, generosity.
I like that.
Nice.
Generosity, it's more natural, and it's also, there's a component of this, and I've definitely been this, and I continuously have to work on this, is the ability to be able to receive. So if somebody's trying to give to me and I'm not able to receive, you're stopping that flow, and so it's important for us to step back, and with the grit model, I can say to myself, well, why wouldn't I receive right now? What's going on with me? Is it my truth, integrity? Where is it? What's happening? But yeah, just being able to be self-reflective on, those things, I think is so, so empowering for people.
Yeah. I mean, so true. And then even going with your story, I'm listening to, from how you shared some of your past and getting to this point where you've developed this amazing model, right, of grit. I think that you had to have gone through all that stuff to get to this place, right? I mean, and I think that's something that we
Absolutely.
all have to understand. Because I was actually just talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so driven, and sometimes it's really impacting the relationships I have." And I'm like, "Well, do you want to change?"
Yeah.
And they're like, well,
Huh?
we're having a discussion, so there's something up with it, right? Because you brought this
Yeah.
to my attention. But I mean, do you want to change? Because I look back on some of the quote unquote mistakes maybe that I've made and maybe impacted some of the relationships I've been in. But I don't know
Hold
if I
on.
would have went back and changed.
I'll get the list out. Hold
Oh
on.
yeah, there you go. Scott keeps a record.
I keep tabs.
Right. But
He's your accountability buddy.
That's
I
right.
yeah,
guess.
absolutely. Yeah. He just tells me all the things I'm doing wrong, but
Yeah.
And look
You
how
know,
amazing he's turned out, right? Tough love.
yeah.
It's all
Thank
about
you,
tough
Scott.
love.
Thank you.
You're
I wouldn't be
welcome.
the man I am today without you.
That's right.
I love that you're saying that too, though. That Joe, that we've got to want to, right?
Mhm.
We've got to want to change. It's one thing for somebody to be wanting us to change, and I have
Mhm.
the 5 steps of change in my Leading with Grit book, and it
Yeah.
starts with awareness, that self-awareness, and then it goes to the desire. What's
Right.
in it for you? Why would you want to change? And it has to
Mhm.
be for you, not
Hmm.
for the person that's trying to coerce you or
Right.
or shame you or any of those other things into making
Mhm.
that change. We've really got to find what's in it for us. And the third step is the knowledge. How do
Mhm.
I do it? What's going to work for
Right.
me? And what works for you might be different than what works for me. And maybe I try something, which is step 4, taking action on it, but it doesn't work and I fall flat on my face. Step 5
Mhm.
is perseverance, to keep going through
Right.
through that. But
Right.
And that I mean, honestly, the self-awareness, you said that was your first step, right? And it
yep,
makes so much sense because how do you know where you're going to go if you can't do a self-eval or self-check of who you
right.
are authentically? Because a lot of us, we kind of have our own perception of who we think we are.
Mhm.
Yes.
And the hardest thing in the world is to hear somebody tell us that we're not as hot as we
Right.
think we might be, right? So
Yeah.
that self-awareness is crucial. It's critical. And it takes humility to acknowledge, shortcomings.
It
Yeah.
does, and we're not always able to come to that awareness on our own, right? Like we can have some good friends that keep our list for us and stuff, or
Here's a database now.
but it's, if we can learn to not take things so personally and really listen to other people and just decide for ourselves, gosh, is there any truth in that? Is that hitting a wound? And do I feel
Mhm.
emotional about that? If I'm
Mhm.
feeling emotional about that, that's a great self-awareness tool right there to go,
Yes.
hey, what's going on? What's
Right.
going on with me right now, right? Maybe there's
Right.
something, if I feel this, need to really defend, then gosh,
Right.
maybe there's a little bit of a truth
Yeah.
in that. And I don't know, have you guys ever taken a 360? Have you ever gotten
Oh,
feedback from
Mhm.
yeah.
your
Yeah.
peers? Yeah.
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 I know the first time I did that way back in, when I was in corporate, talk about having humility,
Yeah.
and being
Mhm.
able to really, I remember getting my results and just going at first, seriously, just going, who said that? Who said that?
Right.
Who said
Like,
that? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Mhm.
like, because I didn't really see that part of me, and
Mhm.
Right.
it took a coach to help me to look at it and say, hey, this is an opportunity. This might be perception of people, or it
Mhm.
might be your reality or your behavior. Either way, you've got to change it. You got to change
Right.
your perception. And yeah, I think 360s, if you guys probably know, you've got to have the right environment to do a
Right.
360 trust and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's funny. The one thing I really do appreciate, and sometimes it goes awry, is in the Air Force at our various leadership. At various tiers, we have to go to a leadership school of that, of different levels, right? So when I think they started putting this in every single tier now, but the first time I encountered it was when I was in Senior Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, which now we're like seasoned veterans that's been around for a while, and they do this peer peer evaluation,
Peer
you know what I mean?
evaluation, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, now it's like a 360 eval. And the first one's like 2 weeks in, you're like, I don't know any of you guys. So it gets kind of shy. Like nobody really says nothing. But at the end of the whole thing, people are just took the gloves off and they are swinging. I am like, I really heard someone say, like, basically they put like profanity and there's like, you're a blank leader. You're a blank leader. You know, and I was like, it was funny. But to your point, I think that, that was when I first got some feedback that said, basically it was to the point of you look infallible, right? So I don't know if people can follow you. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
something I didn't really occur to me, but when I took that feedback, I realized that I need to show some of my failures more. Maybe I need to, you
Yeah.
know, be more open to showing that I'm a human being as well. And it was great feedback. But at the time, I didn't value that feedback. You know, I took it and it was like, whatever, you don't know me, right? I mean, but it took a moment to reflect on it. But those are so important. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have a tool through the DISC family of products called 363. And I love that tool because what it's done is it's taken 18 leadership best practices and it helps people to select the comment instead of writing their own because you know, it takes the sting out of it because unfortunately people aren't trained in how to write constructive comments. And that's a whole nother training. So
exactly.
It's like, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, can we just, so, you know, Wiley, who owns the tool, they did extensive research and got feedback for years to hone the best comments. And you just pick the comments now. And I love that because it takes all of that guessing out too. It's like, who said that kind of stuff goes away.
And how many people have completed one of those on somebody else and they've been harboring some grudge for like forever?
Oh yeah.
off of one incident that took place like 8 months ago and like, oh, he wants feedback? Oh, here we go. And
I can't wait.
I only did that to you one time, Scott. Okay, I only did that to you one time. That is awesome.
I've been stewing on this for a full year. Yeah. Now's my time.
Yeah, my time to shine.
Payback.
That is awesome. So I was talking to you a little bit earlier that, you know, I've ordered your book and I can't wait till it comes in because I just know there's going to be so much like just greatness in there. And I'm going on a trip pretty soon to do the nation's business. So I'm going to be able to open that up and really enjoy that book.
Thank you for that.
So,
Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Oh, it's an absolute honor. But I think it's so awesome that you took the time to write such an amazing book and you're doing so many other things too. Like, can you explain like, so Unlimited Coaching Solutions, what is that exactly?
That's the business that I started back in 1999. And so that's my training business. And I primarily work with mid to upper level managers, but I've worked with all realms of all different types of organizations, anywhere where there's a pulse and there's people and we need to kind of work better together. My motto is changing lives through leadership. So we have and I say we because I'm so used to saying we. It's really just me delivering these courses now. But I do have a team that I work with that are, virtual assistants and stuff like that. Yeah. So, so we have a number of courses: Lead with Grit, Communicate with Grit, Team Grit. You know, courses like that are available. And I'm currently looking at a way, and I'll just put it out here because you never know who might be listening, a way to get this very effectively online because of everything that's happening now, you know. So, I don't want just a Zoom kind of thing. I want more than that. I want a platform that really takes you through one experience and to do something like that. So that's Unlimited Coaching Solutions. I end up doing executive coaching and all kinds of coaching based on that, but I don't really market that as much. I'm more about being in the classroom, or I was about being in the classroom with folks and helping them on a journey. So whether it's a 3-day journey or it's once a quarter, or, you know, it looks different ways for different organizations, as you can imagine, with their schedules and stuff. So that's the training business. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
Yeah. And I have my other business is really my speaking and my book. And I also have a Grit Productivity Planner that is
Yes.
that's on Amazon too.
Yeah.
So that I just created a couple years ago. So the book, I'll back up to the book. The book is actually published by Wiley, which I'm, very, very grateful that
That's
they took
huge.
me. Yeah, as a new author, they didn't take new authors back then, and
Right.
I'll just be again totally transparent that when they said yes, and that's a whole story. I met the head Peter Wiley at a conference. And the line was so long to get a signature or talk to him. I just said, you know what, I'm going to let go. And if I meet him in the hallway, great. Because I had a book proposal. And I did. I met him in the hallway and ended up talking to him. And he put me in touch with an editor and stuff. And but the book itself, was one of those things that I was just like, as soon as they said yes, I was like, oh, awesome. And I, being the disc personality that I am, a high I, high D,
There you go. Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to all the details. So the book ended
That
up.
is Scott. That is Scott.
Yeah. The book ended up twice as large as I thought it was going to be, and I had to get it done in 5 months. And I was just like, oh. So I learned a lot about, getting into relationships with publishers and stuff. I think I would self-publish my next one. I think I would do that. But the Grit Planner I did all on my own. And the Grit Planner is, it takes you through a journey of looking at what's important to you in your life, setting goals that don't compete with each other so you don't have that collateral damage, going through high value activities that align to those goals. And then it's a full year of months, a full year of weeks with the 7-day spread so that you can effectively keep yourself on track through what's important to you in your life. And it's undated, so you can start anytime. And
nice.
Again, with our personality, Scott, it's like, I'm better at okay, I'll do it for a few weeks and then maybe I won't do it for a week, and then I'll pick it up and I'll start it again,
Well, it's great because that way you're not waiting till the end of the year to buy it. You can buy it year round.
Right.
You can buy it anytime. You can,
start it anytime.
You can start it anytime. I needed that
awesome.
flexibility, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs are that way. So, yeah, those are kind of some of the things that I'm working on. I do, I do motivational speaking, and I love to do breakout sessions and stuff like that at conferences and anything along those lines, training and development. I just love it.
That's awesome. And for our listeners, Laurie was graciously donated a planner for us to give away. So when this episode comes out, we're going to go ahead and put out, a method to our madness. I'll let Scott do it. He'll figure out a way to get it to the right person, but probably Scott will take it himself. But
no. It won't include any C or S version of this model. Completely ID. Yeah.
That is awesome. But yeah, thank you so much for that, Laurie. And I mean, there was a lot of goodness that came from this conversation, and I can't wait to dig into the book and to the planner. You have so many amazing things going on. We're wondering if there's anything else that you kind of wanted to share in regards to anything that you might be working on, or how to maybe reach you, or your website, or anything like that.
Yeah, actually, my website, lauriesudbrink.com or leadingwithgrit.com or changinglivesthroughleadership.com. It all goes to the same place.
Google.
You can sign up. You can sign yourself up for my free blog that comes out. I like to keep it short and sweet. I've been trying to do some videos. I'm not really great with videos. I love live, but videos haven't been my thing. So I'm working on the videos. And I also have a resource library. So you can get free access to all of the resources in the resource library. And those are tools that I use with, my training clients. All kinds of things are in there. And to contact me, email is usually best. That way I can, if somebody wants to pick up the phone and call, or if they want me to pick up the phone and call them and stuff, we can schedule something. I don't have one of those calendar systems worked out yet. I mean, I know it's on my list. I need to do that. But Laurie, Laurie at Unlimited Coaching Solutions. And if anybody's interested in the book, you can get Kindle or hard copy. You can also get the planner on Amazon. And I have a storefront there called amazon.com/gritty stuff, GRITTYSTUFF. So I have a store there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get to a point where I can fulfill sales on my own, but I just don't have that set up yet. So I had to go through Amazon to do it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it eventually. Yeah, that'd be great.
I know.
You need to get an intern, get a college intern or something, and have them manage that.
Yeah. Anybody interested? Contact.
So with that said, Laurie, I mean, I know several people who are, interested in maybe following a similar path that you've branched out,
cool.
leaving corporate and kind of branching out on your own. What advice would you give? Like any nuggets of wisdom that you would give to anybody that's interested in sort of following that path?
Yeah. A couple of things that I would say right off the bat that I didn't know when I started that I learned along the way. One is to know what kind of business you want. Do you want a lifestyle business? How do you want your experience to be? Visualize what you want your life to be like, because I ended up, as I shared, just building and really not having that life. So, be clear on that, because that will drive, your actions and what you do. Your thoughts and beliefs will always drive that, of course, and being clear on your foundation and what you're trying to do and who you're trying to speak to. I grew very organically, and I did have people telling me along the way, well, you do need to define more of a niche and this and that. And, and I didn't do it, so I still, to this day, I struggle doing that. And part of it's my personality, but part of it's also like, look at the situation we're in right now. Had I had all my eggs in one basket with all that one niche, I wouldn't, have anything going right now, and it's my corporate clients and my government clients have canceled their contracts through the end of the year.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so I think we have to be aware of looking at, I call it the hedgehog principle. I got it from Jim Collins.
Good to Great.
Yeah. And I use it for, an individual to look at myself and go, what can I be really good at? What are my talents? What are my passions? And what is going to bring in money? And so think about times like we're experiencing right now when things crash. Sadly, training is one of the first things to go. So and I wish I had done something where I wouldn't have delivered it myself, but I would have had an arm of my business where somebody was delivering OSHA or some required type training that I have no interest in.
Exactly.
But it would keep the
revenue stream coming in.
Yeah, it would, so just be aware of those type of things, because through 9/11, through the recession, and now training and marketing are cut.
Yeah, it happens. We've noticed that in our department as well. One thing that we've done to kind of is we just really started building our social media presence, just because we know this isn't going to last forever, hopefully, and we wanted to keep our kind of image and our voice out there so people know where they can go to once things get back to normal.
Relevance.
And to stay connected with people, because as we all know, it's one of the most important things as human beings to stay connected. And that's something that we're lacking, during the shutdown. It's and we're starting to come out of that in some of the cities and stuff around, but you hear the devastating statistics of the mental health issues, the suicides, the things that are happening. And so we, as leaders in this community, I feel that we're being called to stay connected to people. And that's what's really made me get on video as much as I hate it.
So we started a podcast during all this, We've as a producer of content, I guess we've been around for a couple of years, but we've been talking about the podcasting for so long, and then COVID hit, and we're like, I guess we're starting a podcast. So and I'll clarify what I mean by I hated video is that, like, I don't like to sit there and talk to no one. That was my problem. Like this kind of stuff, and I know your audience isn't seeing video, but this kind of stuff I love when I'm collaborating with someone. But to just sit there and talk to a blank video, I just don't get it. I don't know how to do it. Joe's great at that.
Well, it's funny because I started doing that just because of the same reason Laurie was like talking about. She hated it. I hated it too. So I was like, well,
that's
I got to
figure out.
I got to figure out how to get there. Then it just happened to, get some some decent reviews. So I was like, all right, might as well keep doing it. So
yeah, I'm getting there. It's slow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you're doing great, and you're doing so many amazing things. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much.
you.
for
And
coming
thank you
on.
guys. I mean, and thank you for, the service to our country and the service that you're providing here. And, my dad was in the Navy, and I love the military. I can't thank you enough for protecting us and putting your lives, and your family sacrifice and all of that. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you
Well,
for saying that.
I mean, yeah, I really appreciate your story and your, I guess, adventure, right?
Yeah,
because there are a lot of people who don't have that courage to kind of step out and break away from the comfort and security of sort of a corporate job, and so to branch out like that, it's something that's motivating and inspirational for other people. So
that's
we
great.
appreciate
And
that.
I say go for it,
Yeah,
the freedom, you get all the responsibility for sure, but you have more control.
That's right.
Right. So awesome. So Laurie, we usually like to wrap these up with what we call the leadership rapid fire. So we're going to ask you a series of 4 questions, and however you want to interpret them, whatever comes to your mind, we'd love to hear it. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite leadership trait?
Well, I had to come up with grit, generosity, respect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because I could never just come up with one. So
Right.
it's that acronym grit.
That's awesome. All right. Okay. So, what is your favorite quote?
Oh, I love quotes. I have them spread throughout my book and my planner. Ralph Waldo Emerson, what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us.
Yeah.
I love that quote.
That is awesome. Super. Yeah, that's powerful. All right. Question number 3. What is a book that you would recommend, or books that you would recommend to an aspiring either entrepreneur or leader?
Wow. There's so many. Obviously, after Leading with Grit.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
Number one.
Leading with Grit.
Yep. And get on my resource library and you'll find more. But this is not one that you're going to find in the business section. It's the 4 Agreements. I can't say enough about that book for leadership and for entrepreneurs and for just anyone in any situation. It helps you to look inside.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. All right. And then the final question, this is our deep question. All right. So at the Llama Lounge, we're all about life, learning, and leadership. So how do you find your harmony between life, learning, and leadership?
How do I find my harmony? Is harmony like, do you mean that like balance? Like, how do I find my bliss, my happiness? What do you mean by harmony? Help me with that first.
So yes to all. So however you want to interpret the question.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. Yeah, I would say how I find that is using the GRIT acronym and making sure that I know myself and I align to that. So I know that health and wellness is important to me, and I exercise, I eat right, I fill my mind with positive things. I make sure I'm meditating. I don't let the Main Street media get in my head too much. That kind of stuff. So I just walk my talk, I guess.
There you go. Awesome. That's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Laurie. This was a great time. And I think one of these days we need to have you back on. We could talk about some other leadership topics.
Yeah, we can dive into some real like leadership topics. I'd love to do that sometime. Anytime, guys. I'd love it. That'd be
awesome. Well, thank you so much. And to all our listeners out there, as always, be safe, stay healthy, and llamas are out. Thanks.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Llama Lounge podcast. Be sure to visit the homepage for links to products and services related to this episode. And don't forget to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice. See you next time.